Haley Lawson folded her worn uniform shirt for the third time that week, carefully hiding the small tear near the shoulder with a safety pin. At 18, she worked at 3 different places: the local diner in the morning, a grocery store in the afternoon, and cleaned offices at night. Her classmates at Westfield Academy, the elite private school she attended on scholarship, treated her like she was invisible. To them, she was just the poor girl who didn't belong. Every morning, Haley watched her wealthy classmates arrive in luxury cars driven by personal chauffeurs, while she took 2 buses and walked the final mile to school. Victoria Sterling, the daughter of a tech mogul, made it her daily mission to remind everyone of Haley's status. "Did you see Haley's shoes today? I think my maid threw away better ones," Victoria would whisper, loud enough for everyone to hear, causing eruptions of cruel laughter from her circle of equally spoiled friends. The humiliation was constant and ruthless. When Haley brought homemade lunch in a brown paper bag, they called it trash food. When she wore the same jacket 3 days in a row, they started a group chat called Haley's Fashion Disasters with over 100 members from school. Her teachers, influenced by the donations from wealthy parents, often overlooked her brilliant answers in favor of praising mediocre responses from the rich kids. But Haley had a secret that would have shocked everyone at Westfield Academy. Every evening after her cleaning job, she didn't go home to a rundown apartment like everyone assumed. Instead, she took a different bus route to a modest middle-class neighborhood where she lived with Martha Lawson, the woman she believed was her grandmother. Martha had raised Haley since she was 3 years old, always telling her that her parents died in a car accident and left nothing behind. What Haley didn't know was that Martha wasn't her grandmother at all, but her guardian, appointed by a trust fund. Her real father was Richard Blackstone, the billionaire founder of Blackstone Industries, one of the largest technology companies in the world. Richard had a secret affair 18 years ago with a woman named Alina, and when Alina died shortly after Haley's birth, Richard made a decision that would change everything. Overwhelmed with guilt and fearing scandal, he arranged for Haley to be raised away from the spotlight with a substantial trust fund that would be revealed to her on her 18th birthday. The truth began to unravel on a rainy Tuesday in November. Martha had been acting strange for weeks, making mysterious phone calls and receiving thick manila envelopes from lawyers. Finally, she sat Haley down at their kitchen table, her hands trembling as she pulled out a stack of legal documents. "Honey," Martha said with tears in her eyes, "there's something I've been hiding from you for 15 years. You're going to find out who you really are." As Martha explained the truth, Haley felt like the world was spinning around her. Richard Blackstone, the man whose company logos she saw everywhere, whose business decisions made headlines, whose wealth was estimated at over $3 billion, he was her father. The trust fund documents showed that she had inherited not just millions, but a controlling stake in Blackstone Industries. At 18, Haley Lawson was one of the wealthiest teenagers in the country. But instead of immediately claiming her inheritance, Haley made a decision that would prove her character. She decided to keep her identity secret for a few more weeks and see how people treated her when they thought she had nothing. What she discovered about her classmates' true nature was worse than she had imagined. Using private investigators that the trust fund lawyers provided, Haley learned that Victoria Sterling's family was actually drowning in debt, living off maxed-out credit cards and loans against their future inheritance. The luxury car Victoria arrived in each day was leased with money her father embezzled from his own company. Marcus Webb, another popular student who constantly mocked Haley's work clothes, was cheating on every exam using a sophisticated network of bribed tutors and stolen test answers. Most shocking of all, Haley discovered that several teachers were accepting bribes from wealthy parents to give their children better grades and college recommendations. The same teachers who ignored Haley's brilliant contributions were literally being paid to favor mediocrity over merit. Armed with this information and her newfound resources, Haley began planning something that would expose the truth about Westfield Academy's corruption while revealing her own secret in the most dramatic way possible. She hired the best private investigators money could buy, gathered irrefutable evidence of every crime and scandal, and prepared for the most satisfying reveal of her life. The opportunity came during the school's annual charity auction, where wealthy families donated expensive items to raise money for underprivileged students, the very students they mocked and excluded every day. Haley arrived that evening wearing the same modest dress she'd worn to every school event, carrying a small wrapped box that would change everything. Victoria took the stage as the student host, wearing a designer gown that cost more than most people's cars. "Tonight, we're here to help those less fortunate," she announced with fake sincerity, her eyes landing on Haley with a smirk. "Some people are born with advantages, and it's our duty to lift up those who aren't as blessed." When the auction began, parents bid thousands of dollars on luxury vacations, jewelry, and artwork. Then Haley stood up from the back of the room, her small package in hand. "I'd like to make a donation," she said quietly, her voice barely carrying across the room. Victoria laughed into the microphone. "How sweet. Haley wants to contribute her lunch money." The room erupted in condescending chuckles as all eyes turned to the poor scholarship girl. Haley walked calmly to the stage and handed Victoria the wrapped box. "This is my contribution to the auction," she said with a smile that held secrets no one could imagine. Victoria unwrapped the box with theatrical flair, expecting to find something cheap and embarrassing. Instead, she pulled out a check that made her face turn white with shock. The amount was $50 million, and it was signed by Haley Lawson. The room fell completely silent as Victoria read the amount out loud, her voice cracking with disbelief. $50 million? She whispered into the microphone. Haley took the microphone from Victoria's trembling hands and looked out at the stunned audience. "My name is Haley Lawson," she said with quiet confidence, "but my legal name is Haley Blackstone. I am the daughter and primary heir of Richard Blackstone, founder of Blackstone Industries. I've been living among you for years, watching how you treat people you think are beneath you." The revelation hit the room like a bomb. Parents whispered frantically to each other, students pulled out their phones to frantically search for confirmation, and teachers looked like they wanted to disappear into the floor. But Haley wasn't finished. "For the past month, I've been investigating the culture of this school. I've discovered embezzlement, academic fraud, bribery, and systematic discrimination against scholarship students. Tomorrow morning, all evidence will be delivered to the district attorney's office, the state education board, and several major news outlets." As gasps and murmurs filled the room, Haley continued, "The $50 million donation will be used to create a new scholarship program, but not here. It will fund full rides to better schools for students who are currently being mistreated at Westfield Academy because of their economic background. Victoria, still holding the check with shaking hands, tried to speak. Haley, we didn't know. You were just showing your true character, Haley said calmly. You treated me terribly, not because I was a bad person, but because you thought I couldn't fight back. You taught me that wealth doesn't create class, character does. The following weeks brought consequences that rippled through the entire school district. 3. Teachers were arrested for accepting bribes, including 2 who had consistently ignored Haley's academic achievements. Victoria's father was charged with embezzlement, and their family's fake luxury lifestyle crumbled publicly. Marcus Webb was expelled when evidence of his systematic cheating was revealed, and his college acceptances were revoked. But Haley's story didn't end with revenge. She used her inheritance to create the Character First Foundation, which provided scholarships, mentorship, and support systems for students from low-income families. She transferred to a different school where she could start fresh, but not before doing something that surprised everyone. On her last day at Westfield Academy, Haley found Victoria sitting alone in the cafeteria, her former friends having abandoned her when her family's financial troubles became public. Victoria looked up with tears in her eyes, expecting more humiliation. Instead, Haley sat down across from her and pulled out a business card. This is for a job at one of my companies, she said quietly. It's entry level, but it's honest work with opportunities for advancement based on merit, not connections. Victoria stared at the card in amazement. Why would you help me after everything I did to you? Haley smiled, and for the first time, it was a smile of genuine kindness rather than hidden knowledge. Because I learned something important these past few weeks. True wealth isn't about money. It's about having the character to lift others up, even when they've tried to tear you down. As Haley walked away from Westfield Academy for the last time, she carried with her the knowledge that she had used her privilege not just to get revenge, but to create lasting change. She had proven that real power comes not from inheritance or status, but from the courage to stand up for what's right, and the wisdom to show mercy even to those who don't deserve it. The poor girl who cleaned offices at night had become the millionaire who would change countless lives during the day. Haley Lawson had found her true identity, and it was more valuable than any trust fund could ever be.